edition of the Sewing Guru. Now in the previous video we cut out all of our toiling pieces and we're now ready to create our toile, or in other words put all of our toile panels together. Now what we need to do first of all is mark where our various pieces are on the panel. So what I mean is we need to mark on our darts and the notches and also the darts at the back for the decorative belt. So we need to do that first of all. Now I've left my pieces of paper on here, the pattern paper on here. So we're going to go through the whole thing together. So I'm going to start off with the back panel for this. So we just discard the front for now and we're just going to work with the back panel. Now I don't have any darts marked on my pattern here, and very rarely do you see that on a commercial pattern. This technique you will see in the industry and it's very easy to do. What we're going to do is create a dart in the back panel on the left and right side in order for us to put our decorative belt in. Okay, and it also gives a bit of shaping as well. So all we need to do is first of all just take off the paper or the pattern of your toiling piece. Like this. Okay, so we can just discard that. And we now have the fabric ready to mark onto. So what we need to do is we need to create where our dart is going to go. That's very, very simple. We're going to have a dart going from the middle of the back panel. Okay, now there's two parts of course to this. So we're working on the left and the right hand side. So we're working with the middle of the left and middle of the right. And it goes up to about in alignment the bottom of the arm side here. Okay. Now it's very, very easy to do. All we do is just turn over and halve our back panel. Now what we need for this is we need some scissors. Okay. Oh, actually I'm going to use my embroidery scissors because they're a lot sharper. And what we need to do is we need to snip our dart points. Okay, now we also need a tape measure for this. Now darts are usually about 1 centimetre in width, okay, where you actually stitch them together, alright? So in actual fact the whole dart is 2. So the first slit is the actual halfway point of the panel, like that, okay? And then we're going to just measure 1 centimetre in. And we're going to slit through all of the panels, like that. So what we have now is we've got 3 slits like that through both panels. And make sure when you have this, make sure that you just press this down and you will see a creased line. Okay. Now what we can do is turn over and we need to get the point where the arm side is, as you can see here. And we're going to put the dart about here, so we can put a pin through there. Okay, so we put a pin through there and it's in alignment, it's slightly below the actual arm side here. Okay, so that's a good length. So we've got our pin here and we can also put another pin through the other side as well, because we need to mark both panels of course. And now that we've got that, we can just carefully lift these 2 panels out and we've still got our pins in place there. Okay, so make sure that you keep your pin in place like that. So your pin head is going to be the mark point. as you can see. Yeah. Now you need to make sure, take these pins out of the way, make sure that it's a mirror image of itself. Okay, as you can see, this is the left and the right panel, you can see there. Okay, and what we're going to do is just mark on our toile where that pin head is with a pen, like that. Now we can take the pin out now, because we've got the mark point of where our dart's going to be. And of course we've got here our invisible line where we press this. Now, because curtain lining is really good for this, whatever you do and you press it in with your fingers, yeah, you'll get the line. Okay, so you can really easily see that. So what we're doing is, of course, this is a centimetre either side of the line. So let's just mark on here from a centimetre there. There's the line, a centimetre there. So just mark, just put a line there with your ruler, like that. Like that. And then going into the dart point. Like that. Okay, so we now have our dart marked in the back panel. And what happens, you see, is when you stitch this in place, so you've got your decorative belt, which will go in there, you'll stitch your dart in place, and it will basically secure the decorative belt in place. So that's why we put this dart in the back there. So I'm going to go ahead and carry on and do the same, what I've just done on this panel here, but transfer it onto this panel here. Okay, so as you can see, I've marked now my darts on the left and right panels in place. So the next thing we need to do now is actually put our darts in. Now I prefer to pin all of my panels together. Now you can sew them and stitch them in place, it's entirely up to you, but I prefer to pin them because with pins you can alter them when it's on the body of the person. Okay, they're very easy to just move in or out, and you can manipulate them wherever they need to be. If you stitch the toile in place, you've got to keep on stitching it, pinning it, stitching it, pinning it, okay? So it's a lot easier just to pin all of your toile together. So you need to halve this and simply just pin along the lines that you've just created for your dart. Like that. Okay. Right to the very edge. So there's our dart in place, and as you can see, that's what it's going to look like when it's actually sewn and stitched in place. Okay, so that's the dart in place. Now of course we need to do that as a mirror image on the other side as well. So let's quickly do that. Make sure that this is exactly in place. Like that. So you're basically just pinning as if you're stitching. Okay. And again, when your toile's made up, all of the pins are going to be on the outside. So they're very easy just to change, manipulate, bring in, take out. So when you take out, maybe widen the actual garment. It's just very easy just to manipulate, okay? So that there is now our back panels completely created. You see? So that's how it's going to look. Now we can also attach the two centre back seams together as well. Okay, so again, you're just attaching these together as if you're stitching the garment in place. So I'm just basically attaching it 1 centimetre in, right along the centre back seam, all the way to the top of the neck point. Okay, just one more pin here. There we go. So there's our back panel now attached together. That's how it's going to look. So now that we've done that, we can just discard the back panel for now, and we can now start working on the front panel. Now again, we've got to get the markings of our darts, and if you've got a notch collar or a peak lapel, we're going to be transferring the notch part here of the lapel. If you're working with a shawl collar, you don't need to do that because there is no notch. It's just basically just a straight piece where the actual facings are going to be attached to. So what we're going to do is just on here, just snip where the notch is going to be, like so. And for the dart, you need to put in a pin at the actual end dart point here. So just put that through there, and another one here. You've got two more there, and another one here, like that, just at that point there. Okay. Make sure that they're going right through the whole cloth. Like that, okay? Make sure it's right through. And we can just snip here as well, the bottom of the dart as well, okay? So we can turn this over and you can see now where our pins are. So we need to just put another pin facing the other way in there and here, like that, and one here as well. That's the easiest way to transfer the dart mark points, in my opinion. And we can take this, turn this over again. Make sure the pins that are facing up this way, keep those in place and take these pins out that you put in the first place. Now that we've got now our markings of where our darts are going to be, we can now take off the actual pattern for the front panel. So just take off the paper pattern completely. Okay, so as you can see, we've got now our pins in place. I'm just going to fold this over because we don't need this anymore. We might need it later on, but we don't need it anymore for now. Okay, and now we just need to put some more pins facing the other way again. Make sure it's through the cloth to mark for both panels. Okay, so when you've done that, you can then lift up carefully, make sure the pins stay in your toile pieces like that, okay? Turn these over, and with a pen we can just mark again what we did with the back panel, where the pin head is, like that. So we can take the pins out. So you can see now clearly where our dart points are, and we've got our notches at the bottom there as well. So let's just transfer the mark points on here as well. Like that. We can take the pins out. And now we can just mark in our darts with our ruler and pen. Like that. And then of course down to there. And again the same on the other panel. And what this is doing is it's making an exact transfer of our pattern, and it's the easiest way that I find to do this. Okay, so that there is our darts in place. Now if I just get my front panel again, okay, that dart marking there is an exact replica of the dart marking on your pattern, and it's in exactly the same place. So it's the best way of doing this. Okay, so now that we've done that, what we're going to do is create as if our front panels have got the facings in place, because this is what we need to do in order for us to put our notch collar in place. Now if you've got a peak lapel, you're going to do the same thing as what I'm going to show you in this. If you've got your shawl collar, then you don't need to do that, because what will happen is that the collar will just turn like that and it just carries on all the way into the neck seam. So you don't need to do that with a shawl collar. It's only for the notch collar and the peak lapel that we're going to do this for. So we need to do a bit of stitching for this. Now what we can do is we can stitch our dart in place at the same time. So you need to fold over your toile and put in the dart. So it's very easy to do because you're just following this drawn line of your toile. And let's just put some pins in there, like that. Another one here, like that. And let's put another one here, like so. Okay. And what you're doing is you're stitching from here right along, just following this line until it just comes out at this point here at the top of the dart there. When you've done that, we've got a notch here for the lapel and the front of our waistcoat. So what we're going to do is stitch this down as if this lapel is in place. So let's just fold that over like that. And again fold this like that. I'm going to put a pin here. Oh. Now we're doing this because we need to see the shape of what the notch collar or the peak lapel is going to look like. Okay, so do this for both exactly the same. So we're just folding this right along. Now you don't need to go along there as well, we're just doing the front of our waistcoat, so we can just go down to the front here. Okay, and it's almost as if you've got your facing attached, because of course when you attach your facing you stitch 1 centimetre in and the seams are in, and then of course you've got your facing which comes over this side. So all of this seam will sort of disappear within itself on the front of your waistcoat. So that's what we're doing. So we're stitching right along to here and then along to this point here. Now of course if you've got your peak lapel, what happens is this will go up and then down, but of course you've got the exact same place where your notch is. That's where it needs to be pressed down in place. So I'm going to do that for both of my panels. I'm going to put my front darts in and I'm going to stitch along here and press this down. So as you can see, I've now created the front part of my panels. I put the darts in and I've now stitched along the fronts, as you can see, all the way along the collar. So we now need to put our notch collar part on here, okay, to see what this is going to look like. So you need your little notch collar part. Now take the pattern off. Okay, like that. And this is the part which is notched. So I'm just going to write on there notched, so that I remember that that's the notched part. It's actually the smallest angle. Okay, so just do that and put a mirror image on there as well. So we know that that's the notched part. Now the notched part will fit in there. Okay. The same. Well, let's just have a look. So it's going to fit in there nicely. Yeah, perfect. That's just make sure. Yeah. So the notched part, if you can imagine, this part of the notched collar part will of course eventually be folded in like that and like that. So of course we need this overhang of seam allowance on the edge. So that's where we're going to start. Okay, so as you can see, we've got an overhang of seam allowance there, and that's where that is placed on here. Like that, put a pin, and again do the same for the other side. Now you don't have to do both, but I'm going to do both, and you can get a true sense of what this is going to look like when your proper waistcoat is made up. You know, you'll be able to see what this is going to look like on the person. Okay, and what we're doing is, you can see here where the notch part goes to. That's where we're stitching from. Okay, from here. So if I turn this over, you're going to be stitching from here right along to there, and then turn your collar round, and this part will attach onto there. Okay, so you need to stitch that in place. So do that with both. So we're going from here round there, and when you get to that point on the sewing machine, turn this, and this part will be attached to that there. Okay, so as you can see, I've attached my collar onto this part of the waistcoat, and when it's pressed, this is what we're going to achieve. Okay, it's all nicely pressed here, and what will happen is that this part of the lapel goes back like that, and as you can see, you're then getting a complete true notched collar. Okay, and of course that will disappear into the shoulder seam. So what we need to do is just press these seams open. So on the complete point part, okay, just cut the notch, cut so that the fabric can lie where it wants to lie. Okay, now be careful with this, only cut through one part of the cloth on each side, like that, and then we can press this open, you see, like that, and this side. Now if you snip this wrongly, doesn't matter because it's the toile, okay, and you can do it again. But you've got to be very careful when it comes to the real fabric, because once you snip it, that's it, you've snipped it. So we're just going to press this like that. And just press this seam back on there, okay, as if it's the collar part, because of course we're going to be attaching another collar onto there exactly like you would find the notched collar. So that would be like that, and that would be folded like that with the seams, of course. Now what curtain lining tends to do is it curls, as you can see that as it cools down the heat, it curls over. So to prevent that from doing that, just place your clapperboard on top until it's cooled and it just stays flat then. So as you can see, that now is attached, and when you turn that over for the lapel, that will then disappear into the shoulder seam and create a really nice notched collar. So now that we've done that and we've got our collar piece in place, we can now attach the front panels to the back panels. So let's just get our back panels, and we're just going to pin this, and once we've done that we can then put this on the person, and I'm going to be putting it on the mannequin of course to show you what this is going to look like. So we've got our back panel here, we've got the side seams here, so we need our front panel. Okay, it's best to get the front panel where you can see the seams on the outside, and we're just going to attach these side seams together. So let's just get these pins in place. Like that. Because all of the seams need to be on shore. So when it comes to adjustment, it's very, very easy to do that. Very, very easy just to adjust it. So we've got the side seams there, and we can now attach the side panels in place as well. Now of course this here for the lapel, that will bend over like that and create this lapel, and it will sit exactly into the shoulder point like that. Okay, so what we can do is just pin all that in place, because with a waistcoat you create the front panel completely, first of all with the lining, the pockets, the lapels, everything finished, and then of course this is then attached over, and this will disappear into the shoulder seam. So we can do that as if it's all finished and complete, because this is just to get the actual size and fit of what it's going to look like. Okay, so again, let's pin the other side in place as well. Okay, so we can just fold this over. Like that. And attach this on the shoulder seam here. Just pin all this in place, of course, as if it's stitched. And again, we're going to do the side seams of the side panel here. A few more pins. Right along last one at the bottom hem there. Okay, so we've now attached and created all of our panels together on the waistcoat. Now I'm going to take this over to the mannequin and we're going to have a look to see what this is going to look like. Okay, so as you can see, I've now put my toile on the mannequin. Now what you should do is put this on the person that you're making it for, or on yourself. Okay, if you're making it for yourself, you need to put it on yourself. And as you can see, all of the seams are facing on the outside, so it's really easy then to adjust. If there's any adjustments to be made, you can just reposition the pins to the place that they need to be to create that fit. So there you go, that is now the toile ready to be fitted to the person's body. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you in the next video. We are going to then adjust the toile so that we can get that real perfect fit.